Angela, has it been a difficult week in Westminster?
Yeah, certainly it's not been the easiest week, and while there's obviously a personal sympathy for all colleagues who reported, I think what a lot of us find difficult that you would equate, I think one MP who had a Kit Kat on a receipt or 2 tins of dog food is equated with somebody who's claimed just paid off their mortgage but still claimed for it, and those are different order of things. So it has been a funny old mood. I think it was right to make changes on the expenses, but I do worry that Michael Martin isn't the person who's responsible for this, and yet he's the person who's resigned. So on a personal level, Michael Martin's always been very supportive of me. The only reason I got to raise the Vistian issue on the floor of the House of Commons was because the Speaker, Mr Martin, gave me personal permission to do so. So I have a lot to be grateful to him for.
Do you think there is a danger of, as they say, throwing the baby out with the bathwater with all this?
I think where MPs and Parliament has an onus, we have to explain better to people what we do. People quite rightly would say, why do you have another place to stay in London? Why can't you get home every night? And that shows we've completely failed to let people know what we do. You know, by the time I got home from the House of Commons yesterday, and then I had an evening engagement here in the evening, but I got 60 hours I'd worked by Thursday night last week. Now that is a lot of hours to work in a week. So if you added travelling time back and forward, I couldn't do it. And I think people feel that the hours have changed, so we get away at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock during the week. I get away at 11 o'clock. I'm back in at 8 o'clock the next morning. But I think there's also, you have to understand that there's a certain level that's allowable, but there's other resources that people think is inappropriate and not appropriate, and that has to be addressed.
Do you think there's, what is the actual atmosphere amongst the 646 MPs? Is it quite down?
I think it is, for a number of reasons. I think Michael Martin going, losing a speaker, whether people agreed with the speaker or not, is quite a significant moment in the history of the House of Commons. So that does have an impact. And I think also when colleagues are being criticised, whether that's rightly or wrongly, but I think some of the criticisms that have been correct are quite demoralising for other MPs who haven't done that as well. So it is a strange mood.
And for yourself, do you feel a need to go out there in your constituency and perhaps explain what's going on?
Constantly. I'm constantly wanting to explain what I do. You know, I decorated my flat a few years ago. Nothing grand, nothing particularly. Went to Tops Tiles and Homebase actually, but you know, I have bought a number of items to enable me to stay in London during the week. I've reduced my claim significantly down to the year that's not been published, less than £10,000. But you know, I don't feel I've done anything wrong. I acted under the rules, but you still want to explain to people. I've tried to put it a bit in context, and this applies to both Andrew and myself, but if you take into account all the costs of us being an MP, whether that's allowing us to live in London, the cost of renting this office room, for example, the cost of the stationery, the phone calls, all those kind of things, and our salaries, it's still less than the salaries of any of the chief executives in the area at local councils. That's quite an interesting comparison. I think we do have to take the cost of an MP in the round and what the MP actually does.